Okay, so this right here again was what we did to get out of our recessionary gap. We had expansionary monetary policy to get us out of this gap, to move us from 1 to 2. The expansionary monetary policy could have taken one of three forms. This would have been lowering the required reserve ratio, lowering the discount rate, or the purchase of existing government debt. Those would all be parts of expansionary monetary policy. Now, altering this for the other situation, I mean, that one you can kind of clearly see, you want to fix that kind of problem. You've got a recession. And the other one, it's kind of harder to see why you would actually want to get involved, but you do. What if the economy is doing too well? Okay. So in this situation here, this is an inflationary gap. And if you did nothing at all, if you didn't get involved in all, what would happen? Right? We are at a Q that's far beyond our long-run equilibrium. So what would happen is that the short-run curve, if we left it on its own, would start to adjust and move us to point 2, higher prices. So you want the Federal Reserve to actually get involved. And how would it do that? It would do that through contractionary policy. Contractionary monetary policy, which would basically consist of raising the required reserve ratio, raising the discount rate, or selling existing government bonds. That would have the effect of decreasing the aggregate demand curve, shifting it inward, moving us from 1 to 2, fixing the inflationary gap. Now, the question then is how much does the Federal Reserve have to do to fix this problem? Well, we actually already know the answer to that. So we've got a gap here, right? An inflationary gap. Let's say that's $100 billion. Well, the Federal Reserve in this case, let's say it has our required reserve ratio that we had in our previous example of 25%. We saw that the Federal Reserve actually only has to decrease the money supply by 25 billion, 1/4 of that, to reduce this by the full 100, right? Because the thing that we're relying on here is the 1 over the required reserve ratio, which is in this case equal to 0.25. With a simple deposit multiplier of 4, basically what we're saying is that the Federal Reserve only has to do 1/4 of the work. Reduce the money supply by 25%. Okay. Now, there is some, whenever you're employing monetary policy, there will be certain delays in implementing it. But economists have a very strong belief that the easiest way and the best way to fix the economy is through monetary policy, as opposed to fiscal policy, which we're going to look at in the next chapter. It's certainly the primary way in which we've dealt with this most recent financial crisis. Right? Is that, yes, Obama and Bush had that, the stimulus plan, but what's been much more important has been the actions of the Federal Reserve in, increasing the money supply to get us out of that recessionary gap. Okay, that for the most part covers the most important points of monetary policy. So I'm going to stop it right here, and then we're going to pick it up with fiscal policy in chapter 27.